All right, it is time for a weekly reading update, and I just realized that this actually says plan. This is not the right card. I thought it was supposed to be green. Anyway, we're just rolling with it. We're just rolling with it. Hey everyone, it is Shannon, and I'm super excited to be here today and to share with you this video. This is going to be my weekly reading update, so I'm going to include the books that I finished in this past week and also my plans for the future, which is a bit more of my Friday read style, but this is going up on Monday, so hence weekly reading update. And actually, it is Monday, September 20th, so that is Election Day here in Canada. If you are Canadian, remember to hit the polls and have your say. I actually did the advanced polls for the first time this year, and I am going to be very much watching a lot of the coverage. I'm not going to say anything one way or the other. Who knows what will happen. But yeah, I'm definitely curious to see what happens, but don't let the fact that this is a bit weird this time get in the way of having your say. That's what I would say. You know, if you can vote, vote. So I'm going to leave it there and switch on to what I have been reading. So this past week was March Mystery Madness Subgenre September. So I'm going to share what I read for that, as well as it is my last little time for books at the library, and I have finished a few more library books, so then I will share those, and then I will share what I'm going to be reading in the upcoming week. So let's get started. So for March Mystery Madness, I picked not really a subgenre, kind of. I actually picked sort of like youth sleuths, kind of. So I read kids books, and I had a YA title that sort of follow a mystery or sleuth or something like that, something to that effect. First up, I had The Misadventures of Edgar and Allan Poe, The Telltale Sign. So this is the first book in this series, which is by Gordon McAlpine, and it is illustrated by Sam Zuppardi. And I got this from the library. I got a physical book, and it had illustrations, which were great. And I really enjoyed that. I actually quite enjoyed the format of it in terms of the fact that it had illustrations and it had some sort of like additional things like throughout that are sort of help you along to sort of figure out the mystery, because I did kind of wonder if this was a mystery, because I wasn't sure if you were able to figure it out, but I think it gave you enough. It definitely was intriguing in terms of wanting to know what happened. It follows Edgar and Allan Poe, who are twins. They are the great something nephews of Edgar Allan Poe, and they kind of have like this very strong connection in terms of that they don't just think alike, but they are almost like the same person. And someone is interested in them and starts to try and push and pull things to sort of make them do or go somewhere, at the, someone sort of like being a puppeteer, not literally, but you know what I mean? Like they're being sort of pushed in the direction of having to do something because someone's interested in them. But I would say that this is actually, like, if I was to say what the plot was more than that, or what happens, it's pretty nefarious. Like, it's pretty dark for a kid's book. So I was a little surprised about that. I did really like their cat, Roderick. He had a second name, Roderick something. And I liked the adventure element of it. I sadly didn't like their characters very much. They were like the smartest people in the room always, and they knew it, and that felt, even though they weren't outwardly would say that kind of stuff, it did feel a little just, I don't know, do a lot of kids books have that where the kids are so much smarter than the adults? I know there's books where the adults never pick up on what's going on. I think I like that one a little bit better than these kids being like, just like, it's just a little weird. I thought it was a little, not condescending, but something. Anyway, they were a bit full of themselves, which is not something I normally, like, I'm not against being confident, but it was a little more than that. Anyway, but there were elements I liked of this one, including that there is an appearance of Edgar Allan Poe himself, which was curious. And there is a bit of a paranormal, parapsychological element to it that I enjoyed, but I didn't love it. I was hoping to love it, and I didn't. So that was a bit too bad. But I am happy that the library does have book 2 and 3 in overdrive, so I can continue the series digitally if I want to. So that was a pro. So I'm happy about that. I also read from Hoopla the Young Sherlock Holmes Adventures, and this volume collection was Head of the Hydra. Yeah, I was not a huge fan of this one. I'm not a huge fan of Sherlock Holmes. I was doubling up. I'm doing an A to Z graphic novel challenge, and I needed a Y, and I thought this was a good fit. It's young Sherlock Holmes. It matches this subgenre of youth sleuths that I was going with, but it wasn't a huge fit. It's a steampunk set one, and I think it's supposed to be, I think they're in boarding school, and I think they're teens, but it reads a bit younger, so I'm not sure what the age group is. There's not tons of information on this title. I found the mystery very, very easy. If you have any familiarity with Sherlock Holmes at all, you're probably going to figure it out. But what really bothered me about this one was that the one female character here, she was dismissed repeatedly, not taken seriously at all, and then objectified. And that was just like, it was just, and like, even like, I was just not having it. So I was really frustrated about that. And like it was just like, why do you even have that character if that's all you're gonna have her for, really? So that bothered me. So anyway, and the mystery was pretty simple, and it was steampunk, but not that steampunk. Like, so I don't know, wasn't a good fit. But hey, I tried. I guess I didn't have too much luck, because the third thing that I tried, I did read a volume of Fables, and I did put up on Instagram because there was like Big B like saying something about a mystery. It wasn't that much of a mystery, but I did read it. Fables, Werewolves in the Heartland. So now I've read all 22 Fables plus the 2 in betweeners, so I'm like complete again. I actually don't know how to put that on my spreadsheet, like whether I put that, because I've already put that I've completed the series, so did I complete it twice? Am I now back to ongoing? I don't even know what to do. Anyway, so I also started reading this X-Files origin story, Devil's Advocate by Jonathan Maberry. So this is part 2 in the duology. I read the first one, which followed Mulder, and this one follows Scully. But I decided to let it go. I would have to have dedicated like twice as much reading time, like an actual I think 4 more hours I needed to read it before I had to return it, and I didn't think I could do it, especially with the election. So like Monday reading is just off the table. So yeah, so anyway, I tried, but I didn't succeed. So this one follows Scully. So I DNF'd it, if I didn't say that wasn't clear enough. So this one follows Scully at 15 in 1979. She's at the new girl in school, and she's having these dreams that seem to be not like that are troubling, and she starts to see things, and then but other people don't see them. So definitely has a sort of paranormal spin on it. But also, like, for me, I found that a bit strange because she's the skeptic, like when it comes to the show. So I wasn't loving this one. I felt like it showed Scully, whereas the Mulder one felt like it was Mulder, like it was just him as a kid, or as a teen. Like, he was adamant, he was investigative, he was open to the possibilities of things. He would see people differently than others in terms of, he often believes people who aren't believed and doesn't trust people who are often trusted. And I also felt like he was being seen for his potential. Whereas in this one, we see Scully not as a skeptic, but as someone who's experiencing sort of potentially paranormal stuff. I didn't read long enough to know whether it was. She was very unsure of herself being the new girl in school, and very much felt the shadow of her sister, who was like the popular one, and didn't seem to have too many interests other than she takes, I think, jujitsu, and they go to like a new age store all the time, which has like yoga and jujitsu, but she doesn't, like, she's a skeptic from the show. So I'm like, where is this coming from? The physicality stuff, sure, but I was just surprised to see her like taking yoga, especially in the late 70s. And then I also felt like, whereas Mulder was being seen in his book as someone for potential, I felt like she was being more like potentially, I didn't read long enough to know, but like maybe potentially being used in terms of this parapsychological stuff, or potentially you know, she's experiencing horrible things and not getting support for them. So she's either being becoming a victim of something, or being used as almost like an object. So I was just like not having it. I was like, no. And then when I figured out the time, because I figured out all the time for the rest of the books I need to read, after I figured all of that out and I needed another 4 hours, I'm like, no, I could finish all of my other library books and read 1 hour a day, or if I added this, I had to read 2 hours a day. And I was just like, you know what? It's just too much. I wasn't enjoying it. And there's a lot, and the crimes are pretty grisly. And I'm like, no, I'm just, in terms of mystery stuff, I have a hard time with murder. So there's not, there's not a lot of, like, I know that there's, and actually I remember Elizabeth from Lizzie Faye Loves Books, hi Elizabeth, did a video about, I think she did a video about mysteries that aren't about murder, or at least it was part of a video that she did. But I just feel like it's so predominantly the thing in the genre, even if it's cozy mysteries, and I can't not take it seriously, and so I have a hard time reading stuff. So, and I did find it disturbing. It doesn't matter that it was a teen book. I'm like, that was disturbing, and so I was like, okay, no, not for me. So anyway, I did not do that well with March Mystery Madness Subgenre September. I stuck to my plan of terms of the subgenre with the youth sleuths or younger reader works, and that worked out, but I unfortunately didn't enjoy the titles too much. So anyway, it was still really fun to participate and to see other people that were participating. I think I used the wrong hashtag, but anyway, I did my best. So now on to what I finished from the library, the other library books. So I did finish reading Le Coup de Lapin by R.L. Stine, which is a French version of the Goosebumps book Bad Hair Day. And this was an experience, I gotta tell you. I do not know how much I understood from this at all. I did write in my spreadsheet, I did write what I consider to be the plot. So I am going to try and read this in English and see how close I came. I think it was about a kid who gets a rabbit from a magician and then does a magic show, and then things go awry. And he has a sister. And that, even, he has a sister, it said ma soeur, very many times, but I don't know. It was interesting because I've read so many Goosebumps books. I kind of understand the format of the story from reading, because I think I've read between 30 and 40 at this point, and so that was interesting. I was like, oh yeah, okay, and then we're gonna have a twist. Oh yeah, and then okay, then this is gonna be some situation, and a lot of times the sentences or the chapters end on some kind of grand exclamation, like this one, ma bicyclette a disparu, which I don't know what disparu is. It disappeared, perhaps, in disrepair, broken, I don't know, something like that. But yeah, but to be honest, there are, a lot of times I understood individual words, but sentences not so much. And even the dialogue looks different. It has dashes, and then sometimes at the end of the sentence, no. Okay, so this one, as-tu parlé d'un secret, Marion? And then demande ma mère, asked my mother, or demanded my mother, I don't know which it is, so, actually, as-tu parlé d'un secret, did you have a secret? Did you talk of a secret? Did you speak of a secret? Did you share a secret? So it's so I get some of it, but not but the demandé ma mère, asked my mother, or demanded my mother, I don't know. So anyway, it was a really interesting experience. And I think it was definitely above my comprehension level, without question. But I really did enjoy trying. And I think that that's one of the things I'm going to take from it. And in some ways, I feel like, is it a bad choice to do something where I'm getting so little, or is it a good choice to just throw myself in there and see how much sticks? I don't know. It definitely was one situation where the dialogue and the rhythm was what could be very casual, or very expressive. There were lots of like adverbs and adjectives. Some of them I could figure out what they were. Some of them I had no idea. But it was everything was at an intense level, the worst day ever, like those kinds of things, which is very on par with like the Goosebumps books. That's what they are. And so like everything's extreme. And so, people feel strongly or whatever. And so, yeah, so I'm really curious once I get my hands on. I'm going to request the English copy for my for Overdrive, which is what I've been doing, and I'm actually hoping to maybe finish the series that way. I can only recommend one title per month, so it will take quite some time, and because I think there's like maybe 8. So, and I might not always want to use my recommendation for that, although I'm sure other people will read them. There's always a lot of like circulation on the Goosebumps books, but it can be good to have circulation on other books as well, so I'll probably pair enough. There was a sentence, I think, of this, it's right near the end though. So, yeah, it's like page 110, so maybe I shouldn't read it. Well, I'll say this one sentence. Mais pour l'instant, le problème n'était pas là. J'avais besoin de son aide, un point c'est tout. Il n'était pas question que je quitte la théâtre sans l'avoir au aventure. So I think for an instant, there was no problem. In this instant, there was no problem. No, but this moment, there was no problem. I needed some help. Nope, don't know that. I left the theater. I have opened. No, so I'm not sure. I'll put it there so you can read it if you want. It's between the 2 pink lines. So I felt like that was a paragraph where I felt I got a fair amount of it. And I didn't understand it all. So anyway, and also one of the biggest realizations from reading this that way was that the verbs, the tenses, wow, I forgot how many there are in French. So I could tell like what verb it was, but not if it was past, present, future, and there's so many. I think that's when I dropped out of French. It was like was when we went from like 3 tenses to like 8. I was like, wow, which is too bad because it's like for me, now I try and think of language kind of like code breaking. Like it's like you're trying to understand. But there was sometimes when I was reading it, when I was understanding it without translating it in my head because it was very familiar, very easy, very basic sentences and stuff like that. And then I would have to go back to sort of translating it. But the verb tenses, that made me realize, oh yeah, especially for more casual language, like conversation type stuff or casual thinking, like, I can't believe this happened, I exclaimed to my friend, and this is the worst day ever, and what do you want to do? What should we do in the future? What did happen? That's a lot of tenses going on. You don't necessarily notice it, but there are. So anyway, I'm curious. I don't know if I'll do it again. Let me know if you've tried a book in a different language where your comprehension level was either rusty or just not. Like I took 9 to 10 years of French, but we didn't read like books at all, even kids books, which maybe they should, maybe that should be part of it, because it was always exercises and and so not tons of it stuck, but anyway, so there we go. There is Goosebumps. I talked about that a lot. Other books that I read for my library, I did finish off volume 2 of Moonshot. There are 3 volumes in this series. It's an Indigenous comics collection, and I already read volume 1. It has lots of different comics in it, lots of different styles, lots of different stories, and I was really, really enjoyed this one. I actually think I enjoyed it more than the first one, and these ones are all set in the current day and are about, I'm trying to remember what the terminology they use. Oh, I like this story. This was about a mine in Yellowknife. Well, I'm not going to remember. I'm not going to be able to find it in all of this. But, and all of them I really, all of them had an introductory paragraph that sort of talked about the story, which eventually I started to read after because it did say what happened in the story. So I would read the comic and then come back and get the context in terms of the story and what kind of story it was. In terms of, this one was the turkey dance, an important present-day tradition in the Caddo Hassani culture. So it gave context of the story, which was great. I really enjoyed it. This was really wonderful, and I love both the introduction and the afterword were both great. Also in the Love Fest, I finally finished The Upside of Unrequited by Becky Albertalli. This is in the Simonverse series. It sounds like more of a companion piece, like the protagonist of this is a friend of someone in this loves Simon, or Simon versus the Homo sapiens agenda. But I don't even know if they're in the first book. It's been several years since I've read that one. I love this one. So this one follows Molly, who is a twin. And it's honestly, it's young adult, and it's all like relationship and friendship dynamics, and there's lots of diversity, and there's lots of feels. And this is one with, like, when I read it, I didn't want to put it down. And sometimes I can see where things were going, and I was like dreading this or looking forward to that. But honestly, it was really, really wonderful. I really loved it. So now I'm going to go read Leah on the Offbeat, even though I think that one's technically before this one. Leah's not in this one at all, so I don't think there's any problem with that. So I'm trying to decide if I want to watch the movie or finish the books or watch the show. Knowing me, I'll probably finish the books, so this is great. It took me forever. I started it for Grinchathon, which was at the end of July, but I finally finished it. It was so good. I think yesterday I read over 100 pages, and it's a very, very easy read once you get into it. So yeah, and I actually timed out all of my, so that's how I knew how much longer it was going to be. So it was like 2 hours to read all of the books, or that was yesterday. So I think I managed it a little quicker than that. It's funny, I often time my reading, but I don't always use that information. But when I do, it was good, because I knew that this book was like 30 minutes, so I would just take a break and read that, and that book, that was another sort of 40 minutes, and then so that worked out well. So overall, I'm thrilled with how my library went. My library going went this summer. I ended up reading, I can pull it here, 59 titles from the library. I started going in June, and that ended up being about half of my reading. I read 116 titles during that time period. That is a lot of different genres. I actually did the breakdown here if you are curious, because this is kind of like my stats, because I haven't done stats videos for a while. So if you're curious, the types of library works, or the library titles I read by type, we start with visual works. I read 5 comics bind-ups, 4 graphic novels, and some of those were nonfiction graphic novels, 13 volumes of manga, 3 kids' picture books. Then I read 3 collections. Some were plays, some were poems, some were short stories. I read 4 plays. I read 8 nonfiction works, excluding the graphic novels, and 13 kids novels. Lots of those were Goosebumps. 3 YA novels. It's hilarious. I can't quite remember what the other ones were. I think The Eagle and the Ninth was YA, or it might have been kids. I might have put it as YA because it took me a long time to read. I can't remember what the other one was. And then I only read 3 adult novels out of all of that. And those ones were Mr. Malcolm's List, Night Pleasures, and Affliction, which was the toughest. And I actually dedicated almost an entire day to finishing that one because it was due. I had to return it, and it was tough, and I actually didn't really enjoy it that much. I feel complicated about it, but, it really made me realize, it took so much dedicated time to read it. And I really generally read a lot of shorter works, or titles for younger readers, or visual works. A 400, or I think it was actually only 300 page hardback. I mean, it took me so long over time, and then when I sat down and said, okay, I'm going to finish this today, which I never do, but I thought I would try it, I did not like it. It's not how I like to read. It is just not like how I like to read. A little bit at a time, 20 minutes of this, 10 minutes of that, 20 minutes of this, so much better for me. Anyway, this video is going really, really long, so I'm going to actually now just share what I'm currently reading. I'm actually not going to do a checking in on library checkouts for my final library because half of them have already gone back. I decided to stop going earlier than expected, so I started I took 10 back and then 8 back or whatever. So my last is still a lot of books, and a lot of hefty books, but I have my cart. And, but taking them all in one go just felt overwhelming. So I've been going a little at a time. But I'm thrilled with how it went. And I mentioned that I only go in the summer, and some people have asked, and I will always reply, of course, to comments, but just if you're curious, for me, it's just with the weather, it is harder to get to the library, and it makes me unreliable to be able to return things on time. And so for me, it's just easier to go in the summer when I know that the only thing I'm dealing with is rain. I don't drive. So if I can't, I don't want any sort of barrier to being able to get to or get back from the library, return library books. So that's why I go, is just weather Toronto. And so that is the reason. It's just harder for me to get around with the snow, which makes it unreliable, which means it's just easier to say no, enjoy them in the summer, and in the winter I will enjoy my own books, which I'm going to get back to. This week, I'll share what I'm reading this week, but as of next week, I am going to start back on doing the currently reading challenge, or focusing on the books that I'm currently reading. So next, I think Sunday, I will do picks from my jars of the books that I'm currently reading, and I'm going to get back to doing that. So I'm going to start doing that sooner than I thought I would. I thought it was going to be mid-October, but just keep on having to roll with things because other things keep on changing. So I'm just trying to do my best, and returning my library books now actually works perfectly. I will have them all back either on or right before, like right as summer becomes fall. And I kept on saying I was going to enjoy the library for the summer. So the fact that it goes right up until like the first day of fall, it felt perfect. I feel like I got so much enjoyment from those books. I'm ready to shift back to my own books. So that being said, for this next week, I do have some titles that I am focusing on. The first up is Scythe by Neal Shusterman. This is my buddy read with Izzy and Kay Kelly, and I'm really looking forward to continuing this. This one I've already started. It is, and we have shifted the live show to Tuesday, October 5th. So if you are interested in reading along and coming to the live show, that's when it will be. I needed the change, so thank you both Izzy and Kay Kelly for being okay with shifting it. I really appreciate it. So so this one is a YA dystopic. I'm enjoying it. It is very different than I expected. I'm really curious to see where it's going to go, and it's one that you just always want to know what's going to happen next. It's really interesting. I'm also reading The League of Youth by Ibsen. I want to read, I think, 3 more plays by Ibsen by the end of the year, so this is my September one. It's a political drama, but it's a bit shorter. It's 188 pages. I'm enjoying it so far. I'm only in Act 2, so I'm hoping to finish that this week. And then I'm going to be starting Night Embrace by Sherilyn Kenyon. This one I am buddy reading with Anita from Anita Reads. And Anita did a video about she's doing a category romance exploration. Oh my goodness. I will leave it up in the cards. Check it out. She has, looks like it's going to be so much fun. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how she enjoys the different lines. And that's from Harlequin. It just sounds like so much fun. But we're reading Night Embrace, which is a paranormal romance. So we're starting that this week, and I think, is that it? Yeah, that's it. So I'm reading other stuff. I'm trying to finish off a couple more things before I start the currently reading project, but I'm thrilled. I'm actually down to 32 titles on my currently reading, and when I started going to the library, I had 31. So pretty much everything that I started this summer, I finished. I am there's one exception which will come up when it comes up, but generally speaking, I am thrilled about that. I was able to finish. There were a couple things I DNF'd, like the X-Files book. I think that might be it, though. I think that might be it. There might be one that I started and decided not to continue, but generally speaking, everything I started, I finished. But there was one exception. There's always one exception. That's why exception is singular. Well, you can just say exceptions and then there's more. Anyway, doesn't matter. So that was a lot. Wow, obviously I haven't done one of these in a while. Let me know what you are reading this week. And if you're Canadian, Make sure to vote. Okay, thank you so much for watching. Bye.